The concept of the Waldemath dark moon, often referred to as the second moon or Lilith Waldemath, occupies a unique, shadowy niche in astrology. Unlike the black moon Lilith, which is a mathematical point, the lunar apogee, the Waldemath moon was proposed by astronomer George Waldemath in the late 19th century as a physical, albeit non-reflective and elusive, second satellite of Earth. While mainstream astronomy does not recognize its existence, in the realm of esoteric astrology, it represents a density of shadow, a point where we face our most raw, unrefined, and often socially unacceptable impulses. When placed in the 11th house, the house of community, aspirations, and the good of the many, this energy creates a fascinating and often difficult paradox. The nature of the shadow in the social sphere. The 11th house is traditionally the domain of the greatest good. It governs our friendships, our social circles, and our vision for a better future. It is the house of the humanitarian and the rebel with a cause. When the Waldemath dark moon sits here, the shadow is cast directly onto the native's sense of belonging. If the sun in the 11th house seeks to shine within a group, and Jupiter seeks to expand within one, the dark moon here feels like a void or a disruptor. You may find yourself perpetually feeling like an outsider, even when you are at the center of a crowd. There is a profound sensitivity to the groupthink or the hypocrisy often found in social organizations. You don't just see the mission statement of a nonprofit or a political party, you see the ego, the power plays, and the darkness lurking beneath the collective altruism. The outsider complex and social paranoia. With this placement, there is often a deep-seated fear of being ostracized, which ironically can lead you to preemptively distance yourself from others. You might possess a black sheep energy that makes you the person who speaks the uncomfortable truth that ruins the party's vibe. There is a distinct all-or-nothing quality to your friendships. You likely have little patience for superficial networking. Instead, you seek a soul-level resonance with your peers that is often impossible for groups to maintain. This can lead to cycles of intense involvement in a cause or community, followed by a bitter exile when you realize the group doesn't meet your exacting, perhaps even subconscious, standards of purity or depth. Subverting the collective. The 11th house also rules our hopes and dreams. The Waldemath moon here can manifest as dark aspirations, not necessarily evil, but certainly non-conformist. Your vision for the future may involve the dismantling of current structures rather than their reform. You are the iconoclast. However, the dark moon energy is often unrefined. In this house, it can manifest as a tendency to sabotage your own success just as you are about to achieve a long-held goal. This happens because, at a psychic level, the dark moon fears that making it or being accepted by the mainstream equates to a loss of your essential, wild self. You may feel a compulsion to burn bridges right when they are most needed. The gift of the dark moon, true individuation. The ultimate lesson of the Waldemath moon in the 11th house is the transition from rebellion to individuation. Early in life, you may experience significant trauma or betrayal within groups. You might be the whistleblower who gets punished, or the friend who is suddenly ghosted. These experiences are the dark moon's way of stripping away your reliance on external validation. Once you stop seeking a tribe to define you, you become a powerful agent of change. You gain the ability to hold space for the shadow side of humanity within a group setting without being consumed by it. You become the person who can guide a community through its darkest moments because you are already intimately familiar with the dark. Navigating the influence. To work with this energy, one must acknowledge the dark moon hunger. In the 11th house, this is the hunger to be seen as special or different by the collective. When this hunger is unconscious, it leads to social friction and isolation. When it is conscious, it allows you to be a visionary who isn't afraid to stand alone. You must learn to distinguish between a group's genuine flaws and your own projection of the enemy onto others. Not every group is a cult, and not every friend is a potential traitor. By integrating the Waldemath energy, you move from being a social disruptor to a social alchemist, capable of transforming the collective shadow into a source of profound, unconventional progress. Expanding on the Waldemath dark moon in the 11th house requires peeling back the layers of how the collective interacts with the void. If the 11th house is the laboratory of the future, the Waldemath moon is the volatile chemical that most people are afraid to handle. The burden of the truth teller. In the 11th house, there is a natural pressure to harmonize for the sake of the team. The Waldemath moon acts as a psychic BS detector. You are likely the person in the boardroom or the community meeting who senses the hidden agendas, the repressed resentment, and the quiet power struggles that everyone else is pretending don't exist. The struggle here is that your very presence can make groups uncomfortable. You act as a mirror to the collective shadow. When you point out an inconsistency in a group's logic or a moral failing in its leadership, the group may turn on you, not because you are wrong, but because you have disturbed the collective trance. This often leads to a lifelong narrative of being the scapegoat. Learning that your value isn't tied to your popularity is the core work of this placement. The dark hopes and taboo ambitions. Traditionally, the 11th house is where we cast our wishes into the universe. With a dark moon here, your desires are often unseasonal or taboo. While others might wish for career stability or family harmony, your deepest aspirations might involve radical shifts, the collapse of a corrupt system, the exploration of occult social structures, or the desire to live entirely off-grid in a psychological sense. There is often a secretiveness regarding your long-term goals. You may fear that if you share your true vision for the future, it will be judged, stolen, or mocked. This leads to a double life dynamic where you play the part of the cooperative team member while internally nurturing a revolutionary or nihilistic blueprint that looks nothing like your external reality. The mechanics of social sabotage. One of the more difficult expressions of this placement is the urge to self-destruct socially just as you gain influence. Because the Waldemath moon represents a point of unrefined density, it can feel heavy and claustrophobic. If you find yourself rising to a position of leadership within an organization, you may feel an overwhelming urge to do something erratic to prove you aren't owned by the institution. This is a defense mechanism. By being the problem, you maintain a sense of autonomy. True growth for this placement involves realizing that you can be part of a structure without being swallowed by it. You don't have to burn the house down just to prove you have the matches. Relationships with the misfits. The 11th house also describes the type of people we attract. With Waldemath here, you are a magnet for the broken, the exiled, and the radical. Your social circle may resemble a land of misfit toys. While this provides you with a rich, diverse perspective on humanity, it can also be draining. You might find yourself acting as a garbage collector for other people's shadows, attracting friends who only come to you when they are in crisis or when they need to vent their darkest impulses. The challenge is setting boundaries so that your social life doesn't become a theater of perpetual trauma. You are meant to be a peer to the marginalized, not a dumping ground for their unresolved chaos. Alchemy of the 11th house shadow. When fully integrated, the Waldemath dark moon in the 11th house offers a unique form of social genius. You possess the rare ability to see through the consensus reality that keeps most people trapped in stagnant social patterns. Radical authenticity. You become the person who can stand in a room of 1,000 people and remain entirely yourself, regardless of the pressure to conform. Visionary crisis management. Because you are comfortable with the dark, you are the best person to lead a group through a scandal, a collapse, or a total reorganization. The bridge to the unseen. You can help bring fringe ideas into the collective consciousness in a way that is grounded and undeniable. Ultimately, this placement asks you to accept that you may never be one of the guys in a traditional sense. Your role is to be the outlier, the point on the graph that doesn't fit the trend, but which reveals the truth about the entire system. When the Waldemath dark moon, the phantom or dust cloud satellite, transits the 11th house or makes contact with natal 11th house planets, the focus shifts from internal shadow work to the externalization of the hidden self within the collective. A Waldemath transit acts like a localized eclipse of the social soul. It is a period where the unseen dynamics of your friendships, networks, and long-term goals are forced into the light, often through a moment of friction or a sudden sense of alienation. The audit of the inner circle. During this transit, you may experience a sudden, sharp clarity regarding your social environment. The Waldemath moon represents our innermost fears and shadowy archetypes. As it moves through your 11th house of alliances, it functions as a social auditor. Identifying parasitic links, you become hyper-aware of energy vampires within your friend groups, those who take more than they give, or who only value you for your utility rather than your essence. The ghosting effect. Don't be surprised if you feel a sudden urge to ghost certain groups or if you find yourself being excluded from gatherings. This isn't necessarily a negative event, it is the dark moon clearing space by removing connections that no longer resonate with your authentic, darker truth. The villain arc in the community. Esoterically, Waldemath is linked to one's villain story, the part of us that has been unmothered or rejected. When transiting the 11th house, this energy can manifest as a period where you are misunderstood by the public or your peer group. You might find yourself taking a stand on a controversial issue that sets you apart from your community. There is a sovereignty activated here. You are testing whether your need for social belonging is stronger than your need for personal truth. During this transit, you are more likely to prioritize the latter, even if it leads to temporary isolation. Realignment of hopes and dreams. The 11th house governs our greatest hopes. A Waldemath transit often brings a crisis of faith regarding your future. The goals you thought you wanted, the promotion, the social status, the ideal lifestyle, may suddenly feel hollow, or like someone else's dream that you've been carrying. Shedding superficial aspirations. This is a time of regretted desires, where you realize that certain goals were pursued only to fit in. Emergence of taboo goals. You may start to nurture a vision for your life that is radical or non-traditional. This is the inner witch or secret sorcery mentioned in esoteric texts. Your instinctual intelligence starts guiding your future plans rather than logical or societal expectations. Navigating the shadow transit. Because the Waldemath moon is associated with hidden fears and psychic sensitivity, this transit can make you feel socially paranoid. You might perceive slights where there are none, or feel that a conspiracy is working against your progress. A note on discernment. The key to handling this transit is to observe these feelings without immediately acting on them. The dark moon represents the ghost in the machine. Some of what you see is a profound truth about the corruption of a system, but some of it may be your own projection of past betrayals. The result, a refined network. By the time the Waldemath dark moon leaves the 11th house, your social landscape will likely look very different. You will have fewer friends in the superficial sense, but those who remain will be people who can handle your complexity, your darkness, and your unrefined edges. You transition from a person who seeks to be accepted by the many to one who is resonant with the few. When the Waldemath dark moon forms a conjunction with a natal planet in the 11th house, the shadow satellite merges its dense, primitive, and uncompromising energy with the function of that planet. A conjunction is an initiation by fire. It forces the planet to stop performing for the public and start answering to the soul's most raw, unpolished instincts. In the 11th house, this means your social tools, the planets, are no longer available for polite society. They become instruments of the underworld, used to navigate the complex web of human collective behavior. The nature of the Waldemath conjunction. Unlike a Neptune transit which dissolves, or a Pluto transit which destroys and rebuilds, a Waldemath conjunction densifies. It brings a heavy, undeniable weight to the planet it touches. It makes that planet allergic to superficiality. If a planet in the 11th house is how you act in a group, the Waldemath conjunction ensures you can no longer act at all, you can only be. Conjunction with personal planets. The specific flavor of this experience depends entirely on which celestial body the dark moon is sitting upon. Sun conjunction. This is a black sun moment for your social identity. Your ego becomes tied to your status as an outsider. You may feel a compulsion to be the anti-hero within your community. Your leadership style becomes a cult. You lead from the shadows or through sheer force of presence rather than through traditional charisma. Moon conjunction. This creates a profound psychic sponge effect. You feel the unexpressed pain and hidden motives of every person in the room. In the 11th house, this can be overwhelming, leading to social agoraphobia. You may retreat from groups because the emotional noise is simply too loud to bear. Mercury conjunction, your speech becomes a weapon of truth. You may find yourself accidentally, or purposely, blurting out the dark secret of a group. You communicate in subtext and can decode the hidden meanings in social interactions, making you a master of strategy but a difficult person to casual chat with. Venus conjunction, this complicates the likability factor. You may be attracted to dark or marginalized social circles. In friendships, you seek a loyalty that borders on the obsessive. You may experience betrayal as a recurring theme until you learn to stop looking for a soulmate in every casual acquaintance. Mars conjunction, here, the activist becomes the insurgent. Your drive to achieve 11th house goals becomes relentless and perhaps scorched earth. You have zero patience for group bureaucracy and may find yourself constantly at war with the status quo of your organizations. The void in the social engine. When Waldemath conjoins a planet here, that planet enters a void state. For a period, the functions of that planet seem to disappear from your external life, only to reappear in a more primal form. For example, if it conjoins Jupiter, your usual optimism about the future may be replaced by a dark, cynical realism. You aren't losing your vision, you are stripping away the toxic positivity that prevents a real revolution from occurring. You are learning that the good of the many sometimes requires looking at the evil of the many first. The psychological pressure point. The conjunction creates a pressure point in your chart. You may feel that the collective is leaning on you, or that you are carrying a burden for your generation or your social circle. There is a sense of fatedness in your friendships. People enter your life during this conjunction not for fun, but for karmic settlement. You may find yourself involved in closed-door scenarios, secret societies, high-stakes negotiations, or private councils. The Waldemath moon demands that you keep the secrets of the tribe, even as you seek to transform it. Integration, embracing the foreign body. The challenge of a Waldemath conjunction in the 11th house is that it feels like a foreign body has entered your social psyche. You may feel weird, dark, or wrong in your social dealings. The alchemy occurs when you realize that this foreignness is actually your sovereignty. By conjoining your 11th house planets, Waldemath is locking them so they can no longer be manipulated by peer pressure or social conditioning. You are being granted the gift of total social autonomy. You become the one who cannot be bought, because you have already faced the darkness of being cast out. Subscribe, like, and share.